Hello again. Glad to have you here at Marilyn Storytime here at the Lehman Library. Oh, we're right in the middle of summertime. It's so hot outside, and maybe you're trying to figure out what you can do with yourself all day. Well, please come to our summer reading program. We have lots of events for children and adults. You can read books, get prizes and stickers, and all sorts of fun. And I'm going to tell you a story about something else that's fun to do. Fishing! Who likes to go fishing? Did you know that you can check out a rod and reel here at the library? All you have to do is get your fishing license and some bait and you're good to go. So come check us out. So the story today that I have is called The Fisherman and His Wife. And it's a fairy tale about something that really didn't happen. So if you think it's a little far out, it's probably because it's a fairy tale. And it's just a silly story. So once upon a time, there was a fisherman. He went out to the waters of the deep blue sea, and he went out to fish every day, and he was always trying to catch fish. And his wife was living at home with him, and every day his wife would say, "Oh, my husband," she said, "I hope you'll bring home a fish today for us to eat. We're so poor. We live in this little shack. What are we going to eat?" And she was never really very happy. He tried his very best to always catch some fish. Well, this particular day he went out to catch the fish, and he caught a big fish. And he called it a flounder. Now, I know this isn't really looking like a flounder, but that's the best I could do today. Anyway, he caught a flounder, and the flounder was jumping around, and he thought, and all of a sudden the flounder talked to him. Now, hell, have you ever had a talking fish? Well, he couldn't believe his eyes either, and he said, "Oh my goodness, I better let you go. I better not take you home to eat you if you talk." And the fish jumped back in the water and looked at him, and he said, "Well, you've never seen a talking fish? I happen to be an enchanted prince." "Oh," said the man. He said, "Well, I definitely won't. I'll leave you in the ocean, and I'll just go home and tell my wife I didn't catch anything today." So that's what he did. He went home, told his wife he didn't catch any fish, and she was upset. "Oh, what are we going to eat tonight?" She said, "You go back and tell that talking fish that we need to have some wishes. If he's a prince, he can grant anything for us." He said, "Well, all right, I guess I could do that." So he wanted to keep his wife happy. So he went back to the water and he called for the fish. The fish came up to the water and he said, "Yes, what would you like?" And the fish was kind of swirling around in the water. He said, "Well, I hate to ask this of you, but could you make my wife have a nicer house at home? She would be really happy if she had a nicer house." He said, "It's already done. Just go back." So the fish went back in the water. The fisherman went back to the house, and sure enough, they lived in a nicer house. And he went to see his wife, and his wife said, "Oh, where's the fish we're going to cook tonight?" She says, "I like this house pretty much." But she said, "Next time you go back, why don't you ask for like a stone castle? Oh, that would be awesome if we had a really big castle to live in." The fisherman said, "Well, I hate to ask for too much. That fish is so nice." She said, "You better go back. I don't like living in this little house. We can have something much nicer." So the next day when he went fishing, he asked the fish, "So, fish, enchanted prince." Fish came up to the top of the water and he said, "Yes, what would you like?" The water was swirling around a little darker today, and he said, "Well, my wife is still not very happy." She said, Could you just give us like a stone castle to live in and make it a little bigger and a little fancier?" He says, "It's already done. All you have to do is go back home." And so he stood there and caught some fish too and took him home to his wife. "Oh, I have some fish for us to eat. Oh, and our stone castle, it's huge, enormous. I love this." She says, "Well, yeah, it's nice, but we could have better. We live in a nice home now, but go back and ask that fish if I can't be the king of the land." "The king of the land? Why would you want to do that?" She said, "Well, you may not want to, but I would like to rule this land." "Oh," he said, "but that won't make you happy." She said, "Yes, it will." So the next day he went back, asked for the enchanted prince fish to come up, and sure enough, he came up. "What would you like today?" And he said, "Would you grant my wife the privilege of being king?" "It's done," said the fish. "No problem." So the man, after he caught his fish, went back home. Sure enough, she was sitting on a throne. She was the king of the land. Oh my goodness, she was so excited. And she said, "Oh, I want so much more." She said, "I want to be the emperor of all the lands. Oh, Go back and ask that fish to grant that. He said, oh, honey, can't you just be happy? He's given us so much already. She said, no, go back and get more. We need more. I don't like the simple life. Well, the fisherman decided to go back. He wanted to keep his wife happy. So he went back the next day and asked the fish. And of course, the fish was swirling around in the dark waters. And sure enough, that fish came up and said, what is it that you want? And he said, well, I hate to ask this of you, but my wife would really like to be emperor of all the lands. Done, said the fish. No problem. So he said, just go back. And sure enough, he went back and it was done. And before long, the wife still wasn't happy. She said, now I want to be ruler of the whole world. I want to rule over everything. And she went to sleep that night and the sun kept shining and she thought, I need to rule the sun, the moon, the stars, everything. Go back and tell that fish that I need to be ruler of everything, the whole universe. He said, but honey, you have so much already. I hate to ask that fish of any more. She says, go back. That's the only way I'm going to be happy. So the man went back. He said, oh, fish, are you in there? And the fish popped up and he said, yes, I'm here. He says, I'm so sorry. He says, I just hate to ask anymore, but my wife wants to be ruler of everything. Oh, she said, but I don't think it's going to make her happy. He says, I just really want my wife to be happy. Could you grant me a wish instead? That my wife is happy. And he said, done. And when he went back to his house, they were back to their simple house. She wasn't the king, she wasn't the ruler, but she was very happy. And she learned that the simple life was best after all. And the fish continued to live out in that waters. And the man went fishing and never caught that fish again and never asked for another wish. So sometimes the simple things are the best. You can be happy with much more than you think you can. Sometimes when you have too many things, you want more and more and more. But this little fairy tale told us that sometimes it's nice just to be satisfied. So I hope you enjoyed that silly story. Obviously it didn't happen, but fairy tales and folk tales are fun to read because they're very imaginative. So come check out some books. Come get some movies or whatever it is you like this summer and enjoy our summer reading program. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.